Now that the election is over, I'd like to bring up an issue that I never saw in any campaign ad.
We know more than ever before, but who knew bias was the bane of all you study? We know more than ever before, but who knew bias was the bane of all you study?
Listen to a few snippets of this report that this person has about Generation X and their retirement finances.
So what do the numbers look like for Gen X approaching retirement? Well, for a lot of them, a very large portion of them, the numbers are devastating. As you can imagine, given the information that we just talked about, only 14% of Gen X is covered by a defined benefit plan. That means that 86% is covered by a 401k type of plan, if they're covered at all. If you look at the averages of Gen X, the average Gen X has $130,000 in their 401k plan. Now that sounds like a lot of money, but it isn't, and it's actually quite misleading. Here's why. If you took a group of 10 people and you said, I want to know how much each of you has in your 401k, and one person has 1.3 million and 9 people have zero, the average is $130,000. And 9 out of 10 of them have zero. So while the average is 130,000, the median, the point exactly in the middle, is zero. And 90% of the population will have no money in retirement despite the fact that the average is $130,000. Now this is an example, but let's talk about the real numbers because the data is directionally correct. In the real numbers, if you take the population of Gen X as a whole, the mean is still $130,000. Now, if you look at the data on everything from healthcare to costs in retirement, no one can really live on $130,000. But putting that aside for a second, the median, the point right in the middle of that entire population, is $10,000. And 40% of that population has zero saved for retirement. Now the big question here is, do they know that they're behind? Well, the answer is it's complicated. Yes, they do, but no, they don't. If you look at the data in this report, 86% of men and 87% of women know that they're less than half of where they should be at this point in their lives. Yet despite this acknowledgement, many experience what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is a psychological effect that basically means that while they know the information, they don't know the information. They think that they're going to catch up, and they won't really discover that they can't catch up until the very end.
So, this report is dire because of the numbers behind the finances. It's urgent because of the relative age of Generation X, and it's sobering because the psychological and sociological disconnect needed to create these conditions are not limited to Generation X. Additionally, there are reports that suggest younger generations have been more informed than Generation X was when Gen X was at that same age. But those same reports also suggest that younger generations haven't used that knowledge to make decisions leading to much better outcomes. So, not only do people not have what they need to survive, but we have fostered a culture where people don't even care that they don't have what they need to survive. We spent all year fighting about reproductive rights, immigration, fascism, racism, sexism. No candidate mentioned anything about retirement. I didn't see one political ad on the subject. Whenever anybody did say anything about the economy, the talking point was about gasoline or groceries. Rational viewer, I submit that if I could snap my fingers and get rid of any one culture war subject, the common citizen's lack of awareness and education about economic matters would still make everything seem dark. Imagine, no more racism, but you still have less than $10,000 to your name as a 50-year-old American. Or no more sexism. Equality, yay, but the average American can't deal with a $500 emergency. Now, imagine it the other way around. Prosperity is enough to where people have what they need, even with all of our social ills. I bet you in that scenario, things would seem a lot calmer as we try to talk this stuff out. And make no mistake, outside of the most extreme people, who are in fact a minority, when people romanticize the past, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about a time when, even though our social ills were undeniable, people had what they needed to survive while we had the discussion. What does the average American citizen think life is once they graduate high school? If they graduate high school. Go to college, get a good job, be a good social citizen, and live the American dream. That's what our educational system tells us. Then our economic system is there to fill in the blanks of how that's actually done. You know, because our educational system failed to do so. The American dream is achieved by going to your dream school, getting your dream job, marrying the person of your dreams, and purchasing your dream home. And every step of the way, going into debt to do so. I have long said that the United States' main problem can be summed up by the following. Our social systems, from educational to economic to political to social, create too many citizens that cannot or will not contribute to society. Non-contributing citizens outnumber contributing citizens. As long as our political institutions fail to address that truism, United States culture will suffer the same fate as any other civilization that made the same mistake. Rational viewer, I ask you now, what are you going to do every day, week, and month for the next 4 years to show what you really think is important about where we are as a country? I'm Odium. This has been Message in a Bottle. Come back for the next reflection.
All the wrong beliefs of the mind. But what's real or what's right has so little to do with those minds.